Hi, I'm Jimmy Hart with Luxford GTM Technologies. Today we're going to talk about the GTM1350 Refueler. Let's take a look. The GTM1350 Refueler is the first of its kind, designed specifically to act as a mobile refueler for both large and small vehicles. This unit acts as an emergency rescue vehicle and helps to extend station range for fleets. With 16 composite Type 3 cylinders and capacity of 46,000 cubic feet of CNG, the GTM1350R can be pulled by a 3/4 ton pickup truck, significantly reducing driver operating costs. This unit features a pneumatically driven booster pump delivering gas at 3,600 psig and can fill between 14 and 20 vehicles conservatively. With safety in mind, the GTM1350 Refueler meets all of the highest standards, comes with a 15-year warranty on cylinders, a 5-year warranty on the frame, and is approved by the Department of Transportation and Transport Canada. Being one of the highest capacity and lightest weight transports on the market today, it is a reliable way to store and transport CNG. It includes an easy-to-use driver's side fill panel and allows it to be quickly refueled at conventional CNG stations with its standard NGV1 fill nozzle. It also has an optional reverse flow package in case you need it to act as a receiver in the recovery of stranded gas or biomethane. This is a hydraulic International booster pump. This is designed to go from a minimum inlet pressure of 500 psi to a maximum of 3,600 psi, and that is all controlled by a pilot valve. What we are looking at here is a control panel. The control panel can essentially be divided into two sections. The left side is the air drive section, and the right side is the pump drive section. Now let's talk about the air drive section first. The air drive that drives this pump is connected here. The connection for this air drive can either be air, it can be a nitrogen source, it can come from an electric air compressor, a diesel-powered air compressor, it can come from a liquid nitrogen tank, or it can come from another high-pressure source. The inlet pressure should be around 100 to 110 psi, and the flow rate for the air should be a minimum of 15 cubic feet per minute. Typically 70 to 80 cubic feet a minute is what the pump will typically draw. The way this works is once the air is connected, you should see a zero pressure on the gauge above. This is the regulator for that air drive pressure, and it has a push to lock control. You pull it out so it can be turned and push it in to lock it so it cannot be accidentally turned while it's being operated. So the way it would work once it's connected is that you would begin to turn in a clockwise position to engage the regulator, and you'll watch the pressure gauge for the air drive pressure move upwards. It will move up and approach 100 psi. When it approaches 100, you're done. Lock it into place. So once that's done, you're pretty much set for your air drive pressure part of the pump. This handle down here is essentially the on and off. So it basically is a ball valve that is currently in the off position. This would be the on position. When we start out, we're going to start with it in the off position. Now let's go over the pump itself. Once the cylinder is opened in the back, you will now have pressure coming into the pump system. To find out how much pressure, we'll open up the inlet valve. As you open the inlet valve, you will see the pressure and what's in the trailer coming up on this gauge here. With that in place, the pressure is now coming through here, and there are two channels of distribution through the pump. There is the gas flow going through the pump, and there is also a bypass built into the pump that circumvents the pressure. So when the pressure in the trailer is higher than the target you are filling, gas will fill purely on the pressure transfer basis around the pump. It has a check valve in it, and the bypass can run at the same time if need be. Typically what you will do is open the inlet valve. You'll see the pressure come up on the inlet pressure gauge. Once you're connected into the target source, you will open up the outlet valve right here, and you will hear gas starting to stream across. Again, it's going to be streaming through two sources, through the bypass and through the pump itself. There's a pressure differential between the trailer and your target vehicle. So once this is open, you'll see this gauge come up to speed. This is going to tell you what your outlet pressure is going into whatever you're filling. It needs to equalize or come pretty close to equalizing. You can go ahead and open this valve right here, which will now start to engage the pump. You will now begin to hear the pump rock back and forth. Once it's pumping, you will hear gas flowing through the bypass until the pressure is equalized. When the pressure is equalized, the bypass check valve will close, and now you are filling purely through the pump itself. With each stroke, you'll watch the pressure continue to build, and when you reach your desired pressure, you can turn it off by simply turning the air drive off. Those pilot valves are set for 3600 psi. When the outlet pressure approaches 3600 psi, it will shut down automatically, the air drive pressure thereby stopping the pump altogether, so there is no possibility of overpressurizing with this type of configuration. We do also have a pilot valve that is set for a minimum of 500 psi, so when the inlet pressure reaches 500 psi, it will also turn itself off. Afterward, you will close the outlet valve. And now you will disconnect. Your filling done, you will go on to the next fill. So the next fill, you will connect it to the next trailer, or whatever you're going to fill, open up the outlet valve. Cascading will occur around the pump through the bypass and through the pump. When you are ready to turn on the pump and have boosting action take place, you will then turn the pump on here. You should monitor the air pressure periodically. It will be bouncing around as the pump operates, and so long as it's about 900 to 110 psi, in that range, that's fine, but don't try to chase it with the pressure regulator. Typically, once you set the regulator, you are good to go. When you are completely done filling, everything will be in the off position, and you will want to vent the pressure that is in the pump. Here is the vent valve for the pressure that is in the pump, and this will also vent what is in the hose as well. You will simply turn this and it will vent out the top. When you are done venting, this pressure will come down to zero, and your outlet will also come down to zero, and you're done. Close it off, and now you're in a closed position for this pump. This pump does have a cycle counter. Cycles on these pumps are good for typically 20 million cycles before rebuilds. We recommend rebuilding the pump once a year. Rebuilding the pump is pretty easy. The actual booster pump is down here, and there is a very inexpensive replacement kit for that pump. You can get that through us or through Hydraulics International. It probably takes about a day to rebuild the pump, so put it back together and have it installed, and you're back ready to go. So to fill a GTM 1350, there are a couple steps to work with. The first step is to open up all of the cylinder valves that you are going to fill. You will open these valves. These are quarter-turn ball valves, and when they are in this position, they are closed. You then move this valve in line. It will then open, and you will hear a pressure rush filling the manifold, and that is how you'll know they're open, and you will open all of them before you begin filling the process. You also will monitor your pressure here to confirm that the pressure is in all of the cylinders. We recommend that all of the cylinders be opened at once, equalized, preferably sometime before you begin filling to allow any temperature changes that took place while gases were moving around them. Once all the valves are open, you will come over to the fill panel on the side. The units all have a fill panel, and they all have locks to them. You will give it a quarter turn to open it. In the fill panel, there are 3 items here. One is an NGV2 standard fill receptacle, and this has a check valve built into it, and this should fit most fill nozzles. We do have a separate isolation valve on this because sometimes check valves don't work. So we have this as an additional safety precaution there with this check valve. This is in the closed position and up and down in the open position. It will only be in the open position to fill all of the cylinders. Here is another pressure gauge, so when all of the cylinders are open and this check valve is in the open position, you should see the pressure of what is in the trailer. So you will connect your fill nozzle and you will begin filling the trailer and watch the pressure here come right up. Most stations will have their own presets that they will shut down, which is typically 3600 psi. DOT regulations require that this unit can be overfilled, pressure to compensate it filled to about 4,000-4,200 psi, but they do not allow you to run that on the road with 4,000 to 4,200 psi. DOT wants you to be no more than 3,600 psi when you take this on the road. Once you finish the fill, you will close all of the isolation valves, disconnect, and then you will go back to your cylinders and close all of your cylinder valves. Once all of your cylinder valves are closed, you will then vent through the vent line with what pressure is in the manifold. So you will watch this and vent it down to 0, and don't go on the road until there is no pressure in your manifold. Once that is done, close the vent valve and you're ready to transport. This is the central manifold block. It is not always used for filling and discharging, but it is there because it gives you the versatility should you be at a station or a natural gas source that doesn't have a traditional station setup. This manifold has a 3/4 inch ball valve that isolates it from the rest of the manifold. It has its own pressure gauge and it has its own pressure valve as well. Right here is a 3/4 inch MTP plug that feeds into a female port that you can push into almost any fitting you might want. So if you're going off of another truck or you're filling up off of some other source, you can install whatever you like to fill here. If you are going to fill through this port, you are going to remove this cover and put on any connection piece you want into this particular fitting port, and now you'd fill very similar. You would open up all of the valves, open up this 3/4 inch ball valve, and now you will fill the cylinders that way. When you are done, you would close the isolation valve on the manifold block. You would vent the contents of the manifold block before disconnecting your line, and then you can observe the pressure here. Then you would shut all the valves off the cylinders. So the GTM1350 deploys a PRD system we call the thermal release device. It has a glass bulb safety in them. These glass bulb safeties will burst at 215 degrees Celsius. They're very reliable, very rugged, and when they go, they will burst and the gas will then vent through the cylinders, through this vent line into the frame. We use the entire frame, the horizontal and the vertical on both sides, to vent out the contents through a port at the very top. This is very similar on both sides, so we have dual PRD systems on each side. If these are in a fire, you can contact the manufacturer because they are unusable after they've been in a fire. This is a universal hitch attachment. This particular U-channel allows us to put in either a 2 5/16 hitch, or we can put in a pintle hitch, which is used a lot by military and some municipal applications, which is much more of a universal hitch for trucks out there. The unit we use is a standard 7-pin trailer connection, and it's wired accordingly. We have an emergency breakaway brake system. If this ever breaks away, then it is there. We have a 12-volt battery which is charged off the truck through this connection. We use conduit boxes on everything so it's easy to get into the wiring and deal with any changes you might want to make to it. This whole system also controls the lighting and the unit as well. This trailer has 2 axles. They are both 5,500 pound rated axles. Each axle has an electric brake set so that it can make it easier on your truck when braking wherever you are operating. Every trailer comes equipped with a spare tire and a fire extinguisher. We use high-intensity LED lights to conserve power throughout as identifiers and side identifier lights and license plate ID lights for night driving. Oftentimes, people will forget when they are using the booster pump that there is an emergency shutoff with the gas flow. We formed our units with a line that goes from the back of the trailer through the side, through the front of the trailer. This is the line that brings gas to the pump. If the pump is not seeing any inlet pressure, there is probably a reason. Either the valves in the back are not open, or this isolation valve is in the closed position. This valve with the booster pump can be opened up and left open all the time, but we make sure this is in the open position. This is a lefty-loosey, righty-tighty situation, so counterclockwise would open this valve. Once this is open and you are using the booster pump, you probably don't need to play with that again. There is no need to really enclose that for transit, so when you vent the pump, it will vent all the way back to the manifold as well. For our purpose, this is a platform that serves for many applications, but we built this as a standard feature in our units so that we can use it for regulation, pressure fueling, etc., so we have the isolation valve inside of it. The purpose of the booster pump, once it is up and running, there is no reason to close it, but if you have to, it is there for safety. To learn more about the GTM1350 Refueler and other products that Luxfer GTM Technologies offers, visit us at www.luxfergtm.com.